So in the last video I made about Dark Souls 2, I was reacting and giving my opinions on Asmongold's hot take of Dark Souls 2, and I decided I wanted to continue to talk about Dark Souls 2. So this is the follow-up or part 2 of that video. If you would like to watch that video, it's in the card right there or in the description below. Before we begin, I just want to say thank you to every single person who watched and commented on my last video. I can't believe how many subs I got on it alone. The amount of comments and likes, it's ridiculous, and I'm just very happy. So I wanted to thank you guys. All right, that's enough talking. Let's get into the good and bad of So in this next section, I really want to talk about some things that Dark Souls 2 does right. Now, don't get me wrong, I am also going to be talking about some of the things that Dark Souls 2 does massively wrong, and I am not some just fanboy of Dark Souls 2. I'm a fan of Dark Souls in general. So the one thing I really do want to talk about, which I thought was an amazing idea, was how they dealt with light in Dark Souls 2. A lot of things are super dark in this game, and it actually gives you a real reason to use the torch, lighting up different paths to tell you where you've been and where you haven't been, making the lock-on system connected with the draw distance of light. It was honestly a really fantastic idea that they did not bring up in any other Dark Souls games, or even in Elden Ring. The next thing I really enjoyed about Dark Souls 2 was the very unique ideas that they had for boss rooms. This kind of includes lighting just a little bit, but just for the Lost Sinner. So when you're fighting her in the cutscene, she swipes away all the light sources, which makes it a little bit harder to keep track of her because you can't lock onto her for long from how fast she moves and because of how dark the arena is. However, if you explore around her boss area, you'll find little sections where you can use your torch to light a light source outside, which the light source will continue on into the boss room, making that fight just a little bit easier. But this is completely optional, you don't have to do it. And this is what I'm talking about with the unique boss arena setups. There are several different arenas where you can change the layout completely. For this Medusa boss right here, you can completely fight her in this lake of poison, and the poison will constantly slowly heal her over time. Or if you take a little bit of time, and I don't know who found this out to begin with, but if you set the massive windmill on fire, it'll actually stop the gears moving, which in turn will stop the flow of poison water or whatever it is into that boss room. So that way there's only a very small area around the boss room that she's able to go over and heal herself with. Or we have this boss fight with the Dragon Rider. You don't have to flip this switch. If you don't flip this switch, it will keep the boss arena in a nice dome, so you won't be able to fall off the sides. However, if you flip this switch, which I guarantee a lot of people did because they had no idea what it was going to do, and you can't unflip it once it's flipped, it'll actually drop the surroundings of the boss room away, making it so that the boss can knock you off, or the boss can be knocked off. So it could make the boss fight a little easier or a little harder, depending on if you actually know what was going on. This next one is going to be going into both columns because I do believe it's cool, but I also really fucking hate it at the same time. You can be hit out of interacting with a fog wall, which really sucks when you're just trying to get to the boss that you just failed at and you're trying to get to it super fast. You have to kill everything at all times, every time, or else you won't be able to continue on because they're going to hit you out of that animation. But I also think this was a good idea to stop people from just blasting through everything, not fighting a single thing and just boss rushing. So good and bad on that one. I also just want to talk about doors in general. So there are actually a few wooden doors in this game that you don't really need a key for. All you have to do is just keep hitting it and it'll break open. That's pretty cool. Also, there are a few locked doors where if you hit it a few times, the enemies on the other side will open the door to get you. I find that really cool, I don't know why. So maybe I like it because it makes me feel like the game's AI has intelligence of some kind. Instead of just mindless rotting sacks of human that only knows how to attack any enemy. I don't know, maybe it makes me feel like they still have a version of their old human self still in them, or at least giving them enough knowledge to open doors. I don't know, it's cool, I can't explain it, I just like it. This next one I was actually really bummed that they didn't continue on with because I would have loved to have seen them continue using these, but it is the bonfire aesthetics. I thought this was a fantastic idea, especially if you're someone like me who really likes to fight bosses and you wanted to fight that boss again because he or she was such an amazing fight. All you have to do is go to the bonfire that's closest to that boss, you burn a bonfire aesthetic, and she respawns. Now, this little section that you do that in is technically New Game Plus, and you can do this, I do believe, up to 10 times. And then once you actually get into New Game Plus, it resets. But I thought this was a fantastic idea. It's a great way to get a massive amount of souls, and you really liked fighting a certain boss, you could fight them again. The amount of weapons in this game is ridiculous. But it's not just the amount of weapons, it's also the playstyles you can do with each weapon. In Dark Souls 1, I don't know if anyone else played like this, but this is how I played. As soon as I got a greatsword, especially the Black Knight greatsword, that's all I used. I know all of my friends who played this game, as soon as they got the Black Knight Great Axe, I'm not really an axe guy, I like great swords myself, again, I like Berserk, but as soon as they got the Black Knight Great Axe, that's all they used. I see all the time, that's all people use. If you watch playthroughs of Dark Souls 1, a lot of people will use either the sword that I use, which is the Black Knight Greatsword, or they'll use the Black Knight Halberd or Great Axe, I don't remember exactly what it's called, but they'll use one of those two weapons, because those were the greatest weapons in the game. However, in Dark Souls 2, they gave you multiple different playstyles. This is where, in my opinion, dual wielding started. Dual wielding was actually viable in Dark Souls 2, but it wasn't just dual wielding. People would use halberds, they'd use great swords, they'd use regular swords. There were so many different playstyles you could use and have fun with. And another thing attached to the weapons is just the amount of Titanite shards and upgradable shards you get in this game. It is like triple compared to Dark Souls 1. In Dark Souls 1, if you found a weapon you liked, you better hope that you really like that weapon. Because if you start upgrading that weapon, and then later you decide that you like a different weapon more, you're gonna have to wait until your next playthrough to upgrade that weapon. There just isn't enough shards in Dark Souls 1, which allows you to have several different playstyles. So this next one I found out very late in my playthrough, and I feel like a lot of people don't even know about this because I didn't know about this until this playthrough. But if you decide or accidentally kill an NPC in Majula, you can actually wait roughly 2 hours, some take longer, some take less time, and eventually a gravestone will pop up near where they died or near where they were sitting. And you can actually pay a certain amount of souls to bring them back, which I 100% feel is a better system than in Dark Souls 1 and in Dark Souls 3. I'm not gonna lie, Elden Ring has the better system with the bell bearings. Like, it's such a good idea. There's no reason not to kill them. In Dark Souls 1, if you kill a blacksmith, he's done. You're never gonna upgrade with him again. In Dark Souls 3, if you kill the blacksmith or any other selective NPCs in the hub area, they just pop back into existence. I feel like, in my opinion, the Dark Souls 2 method of how to bring back an NPC is just a much better method. The reason behind that is because, yes, you did something that you shouldn't have done, so you have to pay to bring them back. I don't know, I think that's cool. Now, obviously you can't talk about Dark Souls without bringing up the bosses. And seeing as how I just went through and murdered every single one of these bosses, I decided to do a quick tier list. So this is my tier list of the bosses. And as you can see, there aren't that many bosses in this that are reused multiple times. I'm only really seeing 2, but I think my tier list is a fair representation of all the bosses in Dark Souls 2. With C obviously being your basic or average boss, F being the ones that I just didn't care for at all, and S being the ones that I thought were really amazing fights. Also, I would love to hear your guys' thoughts on my tier list, so comment down below, tell me what you guys think of the tier list that I've created here for all the bosses in Dark Souls 2. Do you agree with me? Do you disagree with me? I really want to know. So as you guys can see, there are a lot of things about Dark Souls 2 that I really appreciate and that I really enjoy. However, there are some things about Dark Souls 2 that are just really fucking annoying. I think a lot of the areas that you travel to in Dark Souls 2 are really amazing. Some of the ones that stick out to me the most, again, are Iron Keep. I really like Iron Keep, but also the Dragon Shrine. That is one of the most beautiful places that I have seen, especially the trip up to it. So one of the last good things I want to talk about might not actually be confirmed. I'm not 100% sure. I have been doing hours of research and I haven't yet found a 100% truth behind this. So there are things that I have definitely found truth in, and that is that Draenlich Castle is a dream or memory, which would completely explain why on one side of the tunnel it's nice, sunny, birds are chirping, and on the other side of the tunnel it's like midnight, it's raining. It explains that completely because it's not a long tunnel. You're not going there for hours. I believe after an hour or so of investigating why the map layout is the way it is in Dark Souls 2, because the whole thing, the whole sequence of events might actually be a dream that your character is experiencing because of the hollowing effect. So there's actually a cutscene where the Firekeepers are talking about how the world is a dream or in a dreamlike state. There is evidence supposedly saying that Draenlich Castle is 100% a dream or a memory of some kind, but my final piece of evidence isn't really evidence, I'm not gonna lie. There is no way for me to prove this because I haven't been able to find any proof of it. However, my theory of why the layout is the way it is that this whole game is somehow an Alice in Wonderland inspired game. I was going through the hundreds of comments I got on my last video. By the way, thank you everyone who commented and watched my last video. You guys are one of the reasons why I even decided to do a video like this again. But as I was going through the comments, there was one commenter named, and I do apologize sincerely if I mispronounce your name because I'm not trying to. Is it Xiaominglong? I don't know how to pronounce this name right here, this guy. He made me see something that I just didn't see before in the opening cutscene. You're on a boat, you go to a small island where there could have been a building there, or there probably was a building there, but it's dilapidated, it's destroyed. The only thing that's there is the archway. And when you finally reach this piece of land, there happens to be a small tree there. And of course, the blood moon behind it. Obvious Berserk reference, but anyways, there's a blood moon behind it. It makes it seem like all this is calculated and it's pinpointed, and all of this just happens to be a right time, right place for the upcoming events that are about to happen. So as your character walks through the archway, which is the only thing that's left, you can see the reflection of the water has a door, but there is no door there. The door's open in the water, creating a whirlpool, and your character will cast themselves into that whirlpool. And just the falling animation definitely makes it seem like an Alice in Wonderland fall. Alice from Alice in Wonderland fell through a hole that was found near the tree, and she fell into a make-believe dream-like world. And seeing as how there's proof that Drangleic is a dream or a memory, I strongly believe, and so does this commenter, that the world is a dream, an Alice in Wonderland inspired dream. And if this is true, I'm going to continue to try and find any source that I can find that's official that says, yes, this is how it's supposed to be. I believe Dark Souls 2 takes place in a dream or the mind of your character, who is going insane, slowly losing his memory because of hollowing, which the dream idea, like I said, explains Drangleic, which my point here is, what if the dreamlike state that you are currently in, or the world is currently in, would explain Iron Keep? I don't know about you guys, but when I dream and I open a door to my house, sometimes I'm just in a different house, or I'm in an apartment I used to live in, or I'm in my grandma's house. Doors don't lead where they should. And if doors don't lead where they should, why can't elevators lead where they don't, or where they shouldn't? Again, the only thing I'm saying that is actually confirmed is that Drangleic is a dream or a memory. And also, seeing as how you enter into the giant's dreams or memories, I could totally see it making logical sense that the whole world is like that. I don't know, comment down below, tell me what you guys think of that theory. Again, a lot of it is just a theory, but of course, the giant's memories and Drangleic being a memory or a dream is 100% confirmed. And like I was saying, the opening cinematic being essentially just the opening story of Alice in Wonderland, it's all starting to connect. However, if you think my explanation for why Iron Keep is the way it is, or why the map layout is just the way it is dumb, and you don't believe the Alice in Wonderland idea, I get it. It's no big deal. The map layout is stupid. All right, I'll agree. I do agree. So going back to the things I don't like, I don't understand why they decided to design some of these areas to be completely empty. Like, for instance, after you defeat the Lost Sinner, you walk into a room that has a broken bonfire in it, and it takes you back to Majula. This room has nothing in it. There are several rooms that are just like this, that have absolutely nothing in it. They are just brick squares. I do not understand why they would put so much detail into everything except for these rooms. So something that starts off as a minor inconvenience but quickly becomes very annoying is just how many statues are in your way, and you have to Fragrant Branch of Yore, or however it's pronounced. I'm really bad at pronouncing things. There are more statues than branches in this, and branches are rare to find. And there's going to be times where you accidentally use a branch on a stone that you don't need. And then to progress in the story, you need to find another branch. And also, why is there a statue blocking a section of the tutorial? I could 100% see a lot of people finding their first branch, going back to the tutorial area, and unlocking that statue. And if that was your only branch, you just fucked up. Because now you can't let the statue lady that's pulling the gate open free so you can pull the gate open. So you'll have to go into different parts and hope that you find another one, or I guess you could simply look it up online. Okay, cool. But if you don't want to do that, you're gonna be searching forever. They are pointless. There is no reason to the statues and the branches. I should have made this the #1 thing. I don't know why I didn't. The hitboxes in this game are terrible. If you really want to trash talk this game and you only talk about how terrible the hitboxes are, I fully understand, and which is also why I'm not mad that Asmongold doesn't really care for Dark Souls 2. The hitboxes are really bad. Now, I will say they have been fixed compared to the 360 version. They were a lot worse, but the hitboxes still need some help. So the next thing I'm going to talk about, and I can't believe he didn't mention this in his video, because it was something that just angered me to my core about Dark Souls 2. Why do you get invaded so much? So I don't exactly know why this game wouldn't let me go online. However, I couldn't summon anyone. No one could summon me. It just kept telling me that I couldn't go online. The online was actually grayed out. So I know I wasn't being invaded by real people. Why does the game have so many NPCs invading you? I counted. I was invaded 37 times. That is ridiculous. And it's always in the wrong place. You know what I'm saying? They always invade you right as you're about to fight 4 dudes or right as you're about to go to the boss door. It was infuriating, and I'm kind of angry that Asmon didn't bring it up in his video. If you were to ask me, what would be the one and only thing that you would say that is negative about Dark Souls 2, it is 100% the movement of your character. Do not understand why they felt they needed to change the code for how your character rolls, the speed at which he rolls, the speed at which you drink. It is the slowest thing ever. And it angered me throughout my, I don't know, 40 some hours that I did of this game. I died countless times because my character, it was like he was just chilling at a pub. He was just chilling, drinking with his boys. That's how long it took to, it takes, I'm literally getting aggravated thinking about it. Just the slow ass movement of how your character drinks. Oh my God, it is the most annoying thing ever. And also just how long everything takes you to do. Rolling is awkward and weird, especially if you fat roll. Do not fat roll in this game. You will die. If they decide to remaster this game once again, please FromSoft, do something about the movement. Oh my God, your character just sucks. He's so slow. So another thing that aggravates the hell out of me about this game, and it is connected to movement, why in the Jesus of love and Christ does my weapon have a mind of its own? I don't know how many times I died because I was targeted on someone. I go to swing my weapon, he picks it up like normal, and then moves to his right and slams it down literally at a 90-degree angle to his right or his left, sometimes even behind him. At a certain point, I was like, this has to be me. Maybe I'm dumb. Maybe I'm like flicking the stick right before I attack or something. There were times where I let the left stick go. I didn't even move it. And I'm just attacking, and he'll just, nope, I'm going this way. Why? Oh my God, that's annoying. Just attack the fucking enemy in front of you. As you can tell, it's been a few days since I played the game. I'm still kind of fucking pissed about it. Oh man, it is just really, really annoying. Now, maybe it was just my greatsword. I don't know. I didn't really have any problems with any other weapon, but my greatsword, it missed so many times. I don't even want to talk about it anymore. That's how aggravated I am. So while playing Dark Souls 2, I came with the realization, I miss walking around hitting walls. I would much rather prefer walking around hitting fake walls instead of these stupid Pharaoh stones. Because at least if I hit a false wall, it'll lead me somewhere new, like in Dark Souls 1 or Dark Souls 3 or even Elden Ring. It'll lead me somewhere new, or it'll lead me to a cool item. In Dark Souls 2, that's not how it works. The Pharaoh's Lockstones lead you sometimes to nowhere. Sometimes it creates a small pool for no apparent reason. Maybe there's a reason to that one, I have no idea. Sometimes it fills up a pool of poison. Sometimes it leads you to literally nowhere. Sometimes it leads you to a blank door. Sometimes there's literally a place in this game where there are, I'm gonna say 30 different Pharaoh stones, like holes that you secret walls or whatever. 25 of them lead you to nothing, literally nothing, or just a useless item that you will not use. I hate the Pharaoh doors. There's a reason why they didn't come back. One thing I really enjoy about Dark Souls 1 and Dark Souls 3 is you get this idea of the people that you can summon. When you start to summon NPCs to fight with you, you know them. You know what I'm saying? Well, you don't know them, but you've seen them, you've talked to them, you've spoken with them, maybe you've defeated them. They're people that you've grown to know. In this one, I'm summoning people I've never fucking met. I don't know who any of these people are that I'm summoning. The only guy that I actually know who he is the Moonlight guy. Sorry, I forgot your name, buddy. But that guy, that's the only guy I knew. Everyone else that I went to summon, every time I went, who is this? This just looks like an Like someone created this character. This literally looks like a character straight out of the creation screen. They don't look like legit characters that FromSoft made themselves and that are an essential, or at least a semi-essential, part of the story. They just look like random NPCs or random assets that they were like, okay, put a dude here, all right, put a dude here. I don't understand it. It made me not want to summon anyone. So to finish off this video, I have my own hot take of Dark Souls 2. Dark Souls 2 is a good game. A lot of the areas are beautiful, massive amount of weapons, playstyles you can do. The music is ridiculously good. And just overall, I feel like it is a complete successor to Dark Souls 1. And for anyone who whines about how easy some of the bosses are in Dark Souls 2, they are equally, if not a little bit harder than the bosses in Dark Souls 1. And I'm not trying to cut on Dark Souls 1. Dark Souls 1 is my favorite Dark Souls game and will always be my favorite. It's nostalgia, but it is my favorite. But if you cut on Dark Souls 2 or even Dark Souls 1 because the bosses just aren't up to par, you gotta remember these were games made for the 360. These games are over 10 years old now. These bosses aren't gonna be anything like Elden Ring's bosses or even Dark Souls 3. So honestly, I think it's kind of unfair to talk crap about these old bosses when we have games like Elden Ring where the bosses are amazing. They move perfectly. They have realistic movement, but they also have fast movement. However, your character is also fast too. Dark Souls started off as a very clunky, slow-paced game and is now a pretty fast-paced game now. But anyways, I got off on a tangent. I apologize. Hot take, Dark Souls 2 is a good game. It will always be known as the black sheep of the Dark Souls trilogy, and I think it's because it took too many chances and it took too many risks that just didn't pay off the way that they wanted to. And I will also say, when you talk about Dark Souls 2, a part of the trilogy, it is the worst one in said trilogy. However, saying something is the worst doesn't mean it's bad. If you and two of your friends were being graded on something and your friends both got A pluses and you got an A minus or a B plus, that doesn't mean that you're not good. That doesn't mean that you are trash. A B plus or an A minus is still great. It's just not as good as the other two grades. And that's how I feel about Dark Souls 2. Dark Souls 2 is a great game. However, it is the lowest one in the Dark Souls trilogy. But the one thing I really want to know is, do you guys agree with me? If you made it this far in the video, thank you very much for listening to the ramblings of some idiot. I really love doing this and talking about games. It's something that I want to do more on my channel, and it gives me a nice break from being that stupid dude that makes fun of video games as he's playing them. But what did you guys think of my hot take of Dark Souls 2? Do you enjoy it? Do you hate it? Do you think it's the worst game to ever be made? Please tell me in the comments below. I really want to talk to you guys about it. Alright guys, so that is going to be it for me today. Thank you so much for watching. I really appreciate it. If you like what you saw and you want to see more, feel free to hit that subscribe button and finger that notification bell to keep up with all my uploads. Comment down below guys, tell me what you thought of this video, and I'll catch you guys in the next one. See ya.